Holy shit!
Walang laman. Yung ginawa ko para iligtas ko kayo. Get the fuck away from my family! Hey! What the hell?
Press this one! Francis!
In the Philippines, a scary thing was happening. A zombie virus was spreading everywhere in the city, making people turn into zombies after they got bitten. But there was one man named Francis who was lucky. He and his family, his wife and 2 sons, were safe. They thought the virus was only in the city, so they decided to escape to their village house, hoping it would be a safer place. When they arrived at the village, Francis felt relieved, especially since his parents lived there too. But when he went to his dad's room, he found something terrible. His dad had died and had a gun in his hand. Francis realized that his dad had turned into a zombie and chose to end his life instead of hurting anyone. This made Francis very sad. He had come to the village thinking it would be a safe haven, but now it felt like a nightmare. As he stepped out of the room, he saw his mom covered in blood, crawling toward him. She had also become a zombie. Francis's heart sank. He didn't want to hurt her, but he knew he had no choice. With tears in his eyes, he took the gun and shot her, ending her suffering. After that, he buried both of his parents, hoping their souls could rest peacefully. Francis then gathered his family and explained that they needed to stay in the village because it was dangerous outside. They had food from the farm and water from a pump, so they could survive there. His wife Iris agreed, but seemed unhappy about staying. Things were tense between Francis and Iris. They were not talking much because they had just fought. They decided to check the storeroom for supplies, but found the caretaker's body instead. He had died trying to escape becoming a zombie. Nearby, some chickens were trapped in a cage. Francis asked his eldest son to get the keys from the caretaker's pocket to free them. His son was scared, but Francis encouraged him, saying this was important training for survival. The boy bravely approached, but got startled when the corpse fell on him. He fell down and got blood all over himself. After cleaning up at the pump, Iris scolded Francis for putting their son in danger. She reminded him that their son was still just a child. Francis snapped back, saying this was not the time to think about being gentle. They needed to learn how to survive if they wanted to live. It became clear that Francis cared deeply for his children, but showed it differently with each of them. Later that evening, after checking everything around them, they went down to the basement. This place brought back painful memories for Francis because as a child, his dad used to lock him there when he made mistakes. The fear came rushing back, and he felt angry and scared all over again. Iris tried to calm him down. While they sat down for dinner, Francis's eldest son mentioned that a friend had invited them to a camp near the mountain where it was safe and full of people. But when Francis heard this idea, he firmly said no. He explained that they had everything they needed right there and didn't want to risk going somewhere unknown. Iris didn't like this decision at all, She wanted to leave too because staying there felt wrong for her. Later, while Francis was sleeping, he had a scary dream about his dad. In the dream, his dad was hurting him badly, and it made Francis wake up in a panic. He felt that he couldn't stay in the village any longer. So, he told his wife Iris that they should go to the camp after all. He explained that those bad dreams were too much for him to handle. The next day they packed up and left for the camp in their van. But as they drove a little way, they found a barricade blocking the road. There were broken cars all around. Iris got out of the car to see if she could move the barricade. Suddenly, a zombie appeared and tried to attack her. Francis quickly jumped out with his gun and shot the zombie, but the loud bang attracted more zombies. In a hurry, they hid inside the car. To protect his family, Francis threw a bomb outside, blowing up the zombies. But there was a big problem. Their van was broken. With no way to escape, they decided to head back to the village. The next morning, Francis went out to fix their van, but didn't tell his family. He had made up his mind that they would stay in the village. He thought that only his bad dreams would bother him there, not zombies. So he worked hard to make their house safer and even put up lights to brighten things up. To lift everyone's spirits, he started dancing with his family. Later, Francis's 2 sons looked at old family photos. They found one of Francis's brother, and the younger son pointed out that the older brother looked just like him, not like their dad. This made the older brother upset because he realized something important. He wasn't really Francis's son. He was his brother's son. Francis's brother had been in a relationship with Iris before she married Francis. Even after finding this out, Francis had taken care of both boys like they were his own. But sometimes he got angry with the older son because he reminded him of his brother. Still, deep down, Francis loved him and wanted to be a good father. One day, while Francis was outside, a dog bit him on the leg. Iris rushed over to help, but worried that the dog might be sick. She suggested going to a doctor just in case. Francis reassured her that the dog had a collar and looked like a pet. It couldn't be dangerous. Then, Francis's eldest son spoke up. He wanted to help his family more and be useful during tough times. Francis told him he was still young, but asked if he could take someone's life if it meant saving them. The boy bravely said yes. So, Francis told him to shoot at something in front of them. The boy was scared, but tried to be brave. Just then Iris and their youngest son came over and saw what was happening. Iris shouted at Francis for pushing their son too hard because he was frightened. When the boy finally shot his gun, it made a loud noise that attracted zombies. They all ran back into their house to escape, but soon realized that zombies were following them too. Just when it seemed hopeless, a big car came roaring in and honked its horn loudly. The zombies turned their attention toward the car as it sped away, giving Francis and his family a chance to escape. Francis recognized that car. It belonged to his brother, the same brother who had been with Iris before. The next day, filled with anger and confusion, Francis went to confront him. His brother tried to calm him down and said he only wanted to check on their parents. But when Francis told him that their parents were dead and pointed his gun at him, things got tense. "You have no reason to be here now," Francis warned angrily. "Leave now, or I will shoot you." His brother replied calmly that he wasn't planning on staying anyway. Now Francis's brother handed him a map, saying there was a camp near the mountain where they could be safe. "If you want to survive, go there," he urged. But Francis didn't want his brother's help. Instead, he thought about burning the map. Just as he was about to do it, he stopped. What if he needed it later? So he decided to keep the map after all. When Francis got home, he put sticks on the windows to block zombies from getting in. While playing, his younger son went to the basement and saw an old zombie outside the window. He got scared and ran to Iris for comfort. She reassured him that the zombie was weak and not a threat. Hearing this, Francis felt brave and went outside. He quickly dealt with the zombie, separating its head from its body. After that, when Francis was getting ready for a bath, his older son found the map. But before he could say anything, Francis scolded him and sent him away. This made it clear that something was bothering Francis. He seemed very anxious. At dinner that night, the older son told Iris about the map. Surprised, she asked Francis if it was true. He denied it, saying his son must have misunderstood. Then he accused Iris of wanting to leave to be with his brother, with whom she had once had an affair. The children were shocked by this revelation. Iris admitted it was true. She had wanted to go to her old love. Furious, Francis took the map and burned it in front of everyone, declaring that nobody was going anywhere. Despite Iris's pleas for him to stop, he continued burning the map and then barricaded the main door with wood. He claimed it was safer that way because zombies were outside. The older son protested, saying there were no zombies and that Francis just wanted to keep them trapped. Anger boiled inside Francis, and in a moment of rage, he slapped his son and shouted that he wasn't even his real child. Just then, a wounded soldier knocked on their door asking for help, but Francis refused to let him in. The soldier was not infected and managed to convince the older son to open the door. Once inside, the soldier explained that his camp had been attacked by zombies, but that a man in a car had saved him and directed him to this house, Francis's brother. Hearing this news saddened Iris even more as she worried about Francis's brother possibly being dead too. However, she insisted on letting the soldier stay in their home. Francis agreed, but said he could only stay in the basement away from his family. Later that night, the older son went to Iris and cried about how he felt unloved by Francis because he wasn't his real son. He expressed his desire to find a safe place for them all and begged her to let him go out to help protect their family. After some hesitation, Iris finally agreed. The next morning, when Francis woke up and couldn't find his older son anywhere, panic set in. He searched everywhere until he discovered that the door was open. His son had run away. This realization made Francis furious. In his anger, he grabbed a hammer and attacked the wounded soldier in a fit of rage, killing him without thinking about what he had done. Here, Francis lost control and attacked Iris, knocking her unconscious. When she woke up, she found herself in the basement with their younger son. Francis had locked them both inside, showing just how far he had gone off the deep end. Nearby, Iris noticed the dog that had bitten Francis. In a fit of madness, Francis caught the dog and killed it, planning to use it for food. But when Iris protested, he became furious and shot off firecrackers in anger. During the chaos, a knife fell from a plate. Iris thought about hiding it so she could use it to escape, but Francis spotted the knife first. He picked it up and locked them back in the basement before leaving. Iris quickly came up with a plan. She told her son to scream loudly. When he did, Francis rushed back down to see what was wrong. Taking advantage of his distraction, Iris attacked him, and together they managed to escape from the basement, locking Francis inside instead. As they fled, Francis was haunted by memories of his father, who had tormented him as a child. This fear made him even more unstable. Just then, Francis's brother appeared, but he had turned into a zombie and lunged at Iris. In a panic, they ran for their lives. Unfortunately, the zombie brother caught Iris. Hearing his brother's voice and realizing he could turn his family into zombies made Francis furious. Just as his brother was about to bite Iris, Francis broke down the basement door and came charging out. In a desperate struggle, he killed his brother and set him aside. But then tragedy struck. His younger son came running in, scared because his arm had been bitten by the zombie brother. "Oh no, what happened?" he cried out in fear. Seeing this, Iris acted quickly. She bravely cut her son's arm to stop the virus from spreading and bandaged it tightly. She urged Francis to hurry and get the van so they could take their son to the hospital. Francis rushed to find the van. Meanwhile, their older son stood nearby with a gun. Seeing Francis covered in blood made him think that his dad had gone completely mad and that he might have hurt Iris too. In a moment of panic, he shot at Francis. When he got closer and saw his father's face, he realized his mistake. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," he cried out as he understood what he had done. But it was too late. Francis didn't respond because he was already dead. The older son fell apart with guilt and sadness over what had happened. He never meant for things to end this way. All he wanted was to protect his family. Now alone and devastated, the olders took the van back home where Iris waited for Francis to return, unaware of what had just happened. With both Francis and his brother gone, all the responsibility fell onto her shoulders during such a dangerous time when zombies roamed outside. Iris faced an incredibly tough challenge ahead, raising her children alone while trying to survive in a world filled with danger and uncertainty brought on by the virus. In this heartbreaking end to their story, we see how quickly things can change and how fragile life can be when faced with unimaginable challenges. The movie closed on this tragic note, leaving viewers reflecting on love, loss, and survival in desperate times.